Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Arun Mehra here, and I'm delighted to have Smita on the webinar tonight.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you.
And tonight's topic is marketing and patient care in your practice. And tonight, we're going to talk about for 20-25 minutes on this subject, which is very close to my heart and Smita's heart. 15 plus years of experience of doing this, particularly with clients, but even more particularly with Smita's practices at the Neem Tree. So what we'll do, we'll crack on. Hopefully you'll get an idea of what we're talking about and get an idea of what things you should be looking for. So let's crack on. I can move this on. So who are we? Just a quick thing. It's a picture that makes us look a little bit younger than we are now currently.
Yes, and this is the real us.
yeah, it's the real us. I'm an accountant, for those of you who don't know, with the owner and managing director of the Mehra Group of Chartered Accountants, practice sales and financing, working with dentists pretty much for the last 15 years.
And I am Smita, Managing Director of the Neem Tree Dental Group. Created and started the Neem Tree back in 2004. And though we've sold one, this is our 5th site, but the current running of 4 practices at the moment. And all of them have been squat practices. And yeah, here we are.
And they're all private as well. So,
yeah, fully private. Yeah.
So on that note, since they're all private, there's not been an element of NHS. So trying to understand marketing, trying to get the marketing right has been a challenge. It has been something that we've both learnt and made plenty of mistakes upon. So hopefully tonight we'll just share a few tidbits too. So let's crack on. Who are we? And this is our new addition to our family this week. This is Teddy, our new addition and family dog.
Little Cavapoo. She's about that big.
Yes.
And very sweet, but very demanding. It's like having a new baby.
So if you hear a little dog scratching on our door in a minute, you know what it is. So
that's where we're going.
Bear with us. So let's move on. So tip 1. My thoughts is, and our thoughts are, don't try and be everything to everyone. Now, if you look at very successful businesses out there, from places like McDonald's to Apple to you name it, they go after one thing and they go after a particular market. So for McDonald's, they're aiming at high volume, low cost. You get burger and chips, and that's about it, okay? And a milkshake, and maybe a few varieties of that. But that's what they're doing. They do very well. Looking at the other end of the spectrum, looking at Apple, they're going for very much design-orientated computers for people who want the latest look, the latest trendy gadget. That's what they're going for. So when it comes to the context of your dental practice, you need to choose the market that you want to go after. And what we've seen over the last 20 years or so is a lot of mixed practices. And so a lot of mixed practices are out there, and it's quite good if you've got a contract and you can get some patients in as an NHS and then offer private services. But really, going forward, I think that's going to change. And if you're going to be successful in private care, patients are more discerning. You're going to have to choose your market and try and build a business within that market. At the same time, you'll need to build a brand around that market, build a team around that market. So remember, marketing isn't just about the logo and how a website may look. It's about the ethos and what's behind that brand, what's behind that business. So it's how the team are trained, how the team are presented, how the team communicate. All of these aspects are very important. And when you're trying to build this brand, you need to try and be noticed in that market. There are 11,000 odd dental practices here in the UK. You need to stand out. You have to be different. So think, what are your USPs? How can you be different? How will you stand out amongst that crowd of dental clinics? And remember, people who want to spend money in a dental practice, they can easily go and spend it on buying a new handbag or going on a holiday for the cost of what they want to spend on. So think about, how could you stand out to make people want to come and spend their money at your practice?
And just something to add there. So an example would be, for example, in our Wandsworth practice, when we opened up, it was very much known at the time as Nappy Valley. So a lot of young mums with their babies, walking around with very expensive pushchairs, but going for a lot of coffee mornings. And that was a market at the time that we were targeting. And we made sure we sort of infiltrated into that market. Funnily enough, I was one of these mums with a little baby at the time. So I joined lots of mother and toddler groups. And again, obviously with an opportunity to talk to these new moms about their children and whatnot, but I had a bit of a secret agenda, and I wanted to sort of market to that demographic and treat that demographic as well, as did my colleagues. And so we really focused our attentions on that. We were very clear our demographic was 30 to 40-year-old young professionals, a lot of mums, and we figured at the time, and still true, that mums in a household make most, if not all, of the health decisions, not only for themselves and their husbands or their partners, but also for the children. And the idea was that we win them over, then we win the whole family over. We were very clear that we're not dealing with sort of older children in that practice, in that area, or we're not dealing with the elderly. So we had a very narrow niche in terms of our demographic that we were aiming to target and service.
Right, okay, so that's tip 1. Tip 2. Think design and the patient experience. So if I look back at our own practices, when we started off our first clinic, we weren't that sure whether design was a really important aspect of our practice, but we met a designer actually on a trip to Morocco, and he started to give some inspiration and some ideas, and really from that the Neem Tree brand was built. So some of the points that kind of was highlighted in that brand was to build a practice that is around the patient and their experience and not you. And that has kind of been a really important aspect of all our practices that we opened up. And we opened up one really recently in Notting Hill. So the patient experience for the Notting Hill patients will be slightly different to the one, say, in Esher or Wandsworth, but at the same time, there are a lot of commonalities within that experience. And therefore, you have to assess how is that patient treated from the moment they pick up the phone to call you and looking at the website to how they come in the practice and to how the aftercare is as well. And in order to do all of that, again, it goes back to having the right people in your team. It's about having a culture of caring and patient service and trying to make your patients feel special as well. So do you want to add a little bit?
Yeah, I think for my part, I think it just goes back to my previous comments on the previous slide. It all goes back to the demographic that you're serving, because the people that you're serving, you should design and make the practice in accordance with that. So, for example, at our Esher site, which is in Surrey, we were there to service, it was much more cradle-to-grave dentistry. So we knew that we were servicing families, we knew that we would have children, and we knew that we would have, we would be looking after the elderly there, so, and doing a lot of implants, which has actually turned out to be true. So we made subtle changes to our original design. So, for example, in the reception area, we have a little chalkboard table for the young children who come and draw on the chalkboard tabletop. We have some toys there, we have little chairs there, but it's all quite subtle because we don't want it to have a bigger impact on the practice. It's for the whole family, so that predominantly is adults, but there is a small area for young children. And then, not in keeping with our usual make and model of chair, which is the ADEC 500 range, which we've gone for in all of our other practices, we made a change and went for the Belmont Clio model, which which allows the patient to sit with their feet down. In other words, it's a knee break chair, and it means that when the patient sits down, they feel like they're sitting in an armchair or sitting in a chair. And that's not only good for nervous patients who feel that their centre of gravity has not been compromised, but it's also very good for the elderly, for whom, again, you might have various issues of dizziness and whatnot. So it's really good. We have a good conversation with them. Their feet are on the ground and easy for taking photos, easy for taking impressions, etc. So subtle design changes should always be, as Arun just said in tip 2, that they should be all about the patient and less about you. Yeah,
and therefore the look, the feel has to be how the patient, and in that design is also the brand. Okay, so when we built our clinics, in terms of the Neem Tree, the brand was a very important aspect of that, and how they feel and the ethos and the message that it communicated from the window shop front to the website to how someone picked up the telephone. So really think design and think about the patient experience, and look at how your patients and your practice go through that experience and see how it is. Ask for feedback, and that's what we do. Ask for feedback, ask for honest feedback from patients and see what they say. And then you can literally see how your experience is in your practice. Tip 3, create a go-to website. I've mentioned this plenty of time, but I think this is an important aspect of marketing. We're in this digital age, and having a website is important, but having a really good website is really important. Okay, there are plenty of websites out there, and you really want to build a website that people want to come back to, people want to look at, people want to find out information, people want to book from, people want to call up, people want to chat on. You name it. There's so many things you need to do. So it's a big task of its own. So once you have the website, then you need to be able to market it. So you have to have SEO, PPC, and build a team to help you develop all these. Okay. At the same time, there's all the social media, from Snapchat to Instagram to Facebook, you name it. And then build a brand where you can measure results. So my experience, especially in the last few years, I think more and more of our effort has been going on to online, whilst we've done a lot of offline marketing, which has been very, very successful in certain of our clinics. More now time and effort is just being put into the online aspect. And then once you've got your online aspect, you want to try and dominate that local market that you're trying to go after. So if you're in a particular area, try and dominate that market so you're always at the top of the search engine and people know you are in that particular marketplace. Do you want to add something on that, Smita?
Yeah, no, I was going to add more on the offline marketing side. So, you know, I'll come back to...
Talk to it. Talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, nothing to add so much with what you've just said. I mean, the only thing to say is that of late, we've please do go and have a look at our website, neamtree.co.uk. We've had various websites before and various companies have got involved, but at the moment, touch wood, we feel that we seem to be getting something right. And, you know, that everything's being measured, everything's being, you know, targets are being set, and trackers are being laid and trackers are being followed. So it just keeps us very much in the loop, minute by minute if we wanted to. And I think that's the way forward for online. Offline marketing previously was a lot more popular. Right now is, I suppose, less popular, but we've done everything from, in our Canary Wharf site, we used to have the ability to market within the malls there. So for those of you who know Canary Wharf, in Jubilee Place, in Canada Place, opposite Waitrose, certainly in the early years, we used to have the ability to set stands out at lunch times on a regular basis, and they were very, very popular, very, very fruitful. And then equally in, let's say, our Isha site, we have every year something called the Isha Mayfair, where we have a stall and look very much like market traders, but we're there really to educate. The idea being that they see us there every year and they come because they have the trust and faith in people who actually do something for the community. And then other things, for example, the Isha Business Guild was something that I joined, and I became chair of that. Again, there was a reason for that, because local community is very important to me. So I wanted to be part of that local business community. And again, that's more subtle marketing, because it doesn't sort of bring business straight away, but it helps with trust within the sort of the shop fronts and the business side of things, and hopefully that then turns into customers or patients.
Sure, absolutely, and I think all of those aspects are very important. But then most of these people then all go online and look on their smartphones or look online.
Yes,
nowadays to go and see a website.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the website is a really important aspect, but all those offline aspects are really important to drive people to that website, to check out who you are, what you do.
But again, yes, and there's no doubt that the online right now is the favoured means and method of marketing. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But again, I go back to the demographic. Sure. It depends where you are. So, for example, in our Isha site, where you do have the older folk, yes, they are still very savvy actually, but there are some who don't. And so for them, you know, you'll sponsor bridge club meetings, or you'll sponsor balls for schools, and that way you get your face known and you get your brand out there. But no doubt, I'd say 80% of it is now very much online marketing.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to tip 4. Smita alluded to it earlier.
Tracking, yes.
Yeah, tracking. You need to monitor your marketing performance, and this is where I think a lot of people go wrong. You can very, very easily spend a lot of money on marketing, and you set up a Google account or Facebook account, and before you know it, your credit card's just being charged by hundreds or even thousands of pounds very quickly. So you need to know if your results are what you're spending that £1 on, or £100 on, or £1,000, you're getting the results. And therefore having that tracking in place is absolutely essential. So one thing to suggest is measure your results and focus on your return on investment. And thinking if you're putting a campaign for implants and you're spending multiple thousands of pounds on it, are you getting more than multiple thousands of pounds back on it, which justifies that expenditure in the first place? And quite often or not, I've seen dentists spend a lot of money, but they're not actually sure where they're actually getting the results in. And they just think, oh, they'll just keep doing it just for the sake of doing it, when they could really quite easily trim their marketing and just focus on the things that are really getting them the results to do that even better. So really important, measure your results. And at the same time, keep changing the marketing that you're doing to reflect better ROI. Whilst you might be getting a certain level of return on investment, experiment to be able to see, can I get even a better return doing something else or tweaking things? So in the online world, they call it A/B testing, but in any way you want to do it, keep testing your marketing to try and improve that return on investment.
And am I right in saying that could be as simple as changing the wording to include different words that you're actually feeding them? Correct. To see what, maybe do it day on, day off, or week on, week off, to actually see how many clicks am I getting when I use this set of words versus this set of words? Yeah,
sure, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So it's so sensitive to copy, to design, to so many things. Okay, so that's important, and then you use tools such as Google Analytics to see the performance of how many people are going through your website, click-through rates, all that type of thing, and then call tracking to see the number of calls. And if you don't know what call tracking is, you can actually if someone goes to your website, they can dial a particular number, and that number can then be tracked to see which page on the website did they come to and at what time of day. And you can even listen into the call as well if you wanted to. It's all recorded. So there's a whole range of things that you can monitor, and it takes time, it takes money, but if you set it up right, it can be actually very, very fruitful for you. Okay, so tip 4, monitor. You can spend all the money in the world, but make sure you monitor actually how you're doing. And then tip 5 of mine is 80% of things don't work, but 20% will. So, and that's the key thing here is keep trying, okay, keep experimenting. So in the nature of how we've marketed over the years, we've made loads of mistakes.
And they've cost a lot of money.
And they've cost a hell of a lot of money, but you learn from those mistakes and you'll keep refining, and before you know it, eventually you'll distill from the funnel and you realize these are the things that works for our business, and for your business it may be something different. Okay, so experiment with your marketing. And do you want to give any examples of things that would crash and burn, things that haven't worked?
The thing about the marketing also, it's a bit of a moving beast, and it's a changing beast. So things that have worked previously, they might not work down the line, or vice versa. Some things that you did try and didn't work, don't be afraid to leave it a year or two and come back to them. I mean, gosh, there's plenty of examples, but I suppose in this world of thousands of messages being thrown at you every single day from the minute you walk out of the door, last year I wanted to try something a little bit different to stand out a little bit, and do a Valentine's offer where the idea was that we would make it very personalized. We would make quite a personalised card, and we would put that in a red envelope, and we would handwrite everybody's names, people who hadn't been for 2+ years to the practice, in order to try and win them back, rather than send a generic email saying, we're missing you, why don't you come back to us? So I paid somebody a lot of money for them to, and their team, to handwrite all the envelopes. And, it cost, I don't know, it was about $3,500 to design and create these cards and send them out to a part of the database. And they did a data cleanse as well. People who hadn't been for so many years, they're still living in the same address. Do they have their same details? Anyway, to cut a long story short, we did this exercise. I was so excited because I just thought we'd get such a big ROI, return on investment. And actually, we only got 3 patients who came in, and they all just came in for hygiene, half-price hygiene at that. And one of them's wife's phoned up to complain, saying, why are you sending my husband Valentine's cards? Which I thought was a bit ridiculous, because there was nothing untoward in the card. So it was very, very disappointing, because a lot of money and effort, and more importantly, a lot of emotional effort was spent on trying to design this campaign. Time, which is a cost. So and that really didn't work. And then on the other hand, as I've mentioned before, in Canary Wharf, the cost of putting a stand out in the malls, which which is almost impossible nowadays. It was relatively negligible, the cost, and a huge return on investment, and extremely lucrative, as well as at the time we used to have a lot of orthodontic evenings whereby we would invite a lot of people and have somebody who from, let's say, Invisalign, who used to come and do all the clin checks, and the orthodontist would be there. We'd book, I don't know, probably oversubscribed 30 people coming in that night, and we would give them a discount and it would work, and it was an extremely lucrative exercise. Of course, we try doing that now in our other clinics. It doesn't really work. You're lucky if you get 2 people attending. So it's slightly different demographic, but also a different time.
Yeah, times have moved on, and therefore we all have to evolve, and all our marketing has to evolve significantly. And we've done a lot of marketing internally ourselves and managed it ourselves. We've used various marketing agencies and spent a lot of money with them who haven't worked particularly well. So marketing has to come from within, and you'll need to drive it. You might want to engage an agency who might be able to help you, which is fine, but you need to be on top of it, and you need to be coming up with the ideas. You might not be able to do the designing in Photoshop or whatever you need to use, but engage some professionals to support you for sure, but think about your brand. And that goes back to who's the market you're after and what you're trying to stand for, and how do you stand out. Okay, so that's tip 5. So those are 5 tips tonight. We've been talking for 21 minutes. Okay, so just some actions for you to do tomorrow. Okay, in your practice, considering your marketing. First question is: are you everything to everyone? Try and select a market you want to try and dominate, and make plans to target that market. Now, if you've got patients of all sorts in your practice, you might want to start not eliminating some of those patients. It's just thinking, okay, I'm going to focus on one particular market. It could be implants, it could be ortho, it could be the elderly, it could be anything really. But try and select a subsector of your market and
create a niche, and work out what your USP is. Because if you have a USP and you do it really, really well, people will want to come to you. The right kind of people will want to come to you. And that may be something that's catering to your skill. It might be something that's catering to the type of dentistry or the type of people you want to see. In other words, everyone's happy.
Sure. Another action to take would be to run through the patient experience with your team and identify areas to improve. I know in our existing clinics, there's plenty of improvement that we can do, and that has to be team driven. It's not by you, it's not by one person, it's going through that whole process, and at the same time asking patients for their feedback to say, okay, this is good, this is not so good, what can we do? So run through that experience.
So it's a patient journey. That's very much about the patient journey. It might be something simple. For example, you might get feedback from patients saying they want you to open for a late evening, or they might want you to open on a Saturday when you don't open. They might even want you to open on a Sunday. Certainly in one of our clinics in Isha, we open 7 days a week. And at first it was a slow starter because people just couldn't get their heads around Sunday opening or coming to the dentist on Sunday. But then the Sunday trading laws were relaxed, approximately similar time to when we started this off. And now Sunday is one of our busiest days. So we listen to the feedback from the patients. And plus, from a business point of view, what's the chair doing on a Sunday, or in fact on a Saturday, or in fact on the evening when you don't have patients? The chair is there. Utilize your asset. Sweat the asset.
Yeah, okay. And then third action to take: search your practice online, and if it's not visible, do something about it. Either consider a new website, consider pay-per-click, or get some external help to try and boost that website and build that website further. So 3 actions to take as a result of some of the points we've highlighted here this evening. So, and then this is a little quote that considers marketing. I'll just read it out to you. Marketing is about values. It's a complicated and noisy world, and we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is. So we have to be really clear about what we want them to know about us. So clarity is really important in this. I haven't shown Smita this slide, but do you know who said that? Any idea?
I don't actually.
No? Okay. It's Steve Jobs, Apple. So we all know him.
Very appropriate for Steve Jobs.
Yeah, that's right. So
and Apple.
So the key point here is we have to be really clear about what we want them to know about us, and just think about.
It's creating that niche, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And dominating that niche, and don't try and be everything to everyone. Apple just goes for a certain market, and they do it very successfully.
And everybody wants to be that market.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lifestyle.
That's right. So just to wrap up then, so just some ideas we've shared with you this evening. Hopefully it's given you a taste of some marketing tips that we can share with you. This is a webinar that 5 webinars we're running on the 29th, 30th, 31st and 1st and 2nd of Feb. 1 hour daily at 8 p.m. We've got 5 days, 1 hour. First one on expanding on what profitable practices do right. Then day 2, marketing and customer care. We're going to go into a lot deeper on what we talked about tonight. Day 3 is about understanding your finances to grow your profits. Day 4 is leading and building a motivated team. And day 5, mistakes to avoid when growing a practice. And we've seen plenty of those, and we've experienced plenty of those ourselves as well. We've got a great offer. If you book by the 26th of Jan, it's 199 plus VAT. We have limited spaces, and all the webinars will be recorded, so you can always go back and watch them if you wanted to. And before the webinar, if you sign up, you can post some questions and we'll address those in the webinar. So you'll get an email after this event tonight. And we've certainly got a decent number of bookings already, and we'd welcome you to come along. I think you'll get a lot of value if you're really serious about growing the practice profits. So in summary of tonight's webinar, don't try and be everything to everyone. Think design and the patient experience. Think about that journey of the patient, how they're experiencing it. Are they having a great time? Are they experiencing the best what you can offer? Build a go-to website. Keep monitoring away. Keep monitoring your website, your performance, and keep experimenting. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Best marketers always make loads of mistakes, but that's how they learn. And
actually have fun with experimenting, because experimenting with marketing is a lot to do with your personality as the principal or the manager or the person who leads the practice. Yes, it can be a costly experience, or a costly experiment, but at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is boost or grow your practice. Mistakes can be made, but it's one area that you can have a lot of fun with. And for things, and don't be scared to try things that seem a bit outrageous, because sometimes it's that little thing that you think, that's just never going to work, and it just takes off. So just make lots of mistakes. Eventually you'll come across a marketing gem that just takes off and really turns your practice around.
Okay, we've got one question that's popped up. Thank you for the question, firstly. How do you market if you don't have a shop front? Now, good question. We've got a lot of clients who don't have shop fronts or practices, and if they haven't been established a long time, firstly they build a very, very strong website and they try and dominate that local space in the local area. That's the first thing I would strongly suggest. Build a strong website. And
then also, of course, it's word of mouth marketing. So if you have, I don't know whether you have or haven't had the practice for a while, or whether you bought it as a going concern, or whether you set it up as a squat. But certainly if it's been going for many years, then word of mouth marketing is invaluable. And we recommend for certain clients who want to buy practices that are going concerns, but they're on the 5th floor of some building, they're the only kinds of businesses we recommend do go on the 5th floor. Otherwise, try and get something with visibility or shop front or whatnot. But word of mouth, and then online marketing, but also where you get into the community, and you might have community events. Depends what kind of place you're in. Difficult to assess without further knowledge.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it goes back to community. If you're going to be don't have a shop front, it's imperative in this marketplace that you get into the community. Local people know you, local other businesses know you, and you build that relationship with those people. Once they get to know that relationship, then they know you're there. That will then help you grow and build your business further. Okay, so to wrap it up, thank you for your time, and we have another webinar next week, a free webinar, Understanding Your Finances to Grow Your Profits, where I'll be talking about some of the financial things you need to understand. 8 p.m, same time next week. Same time next week, okay. So it's good night from Smita.
Good night, everyone.
And it's good night from myself, and it's good night from Teddy. Okay, so thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and we'll see you on next week's webinar.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.